Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator lab. This is a video number 6. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We continue use the VirtualBox 7 hypervisor with Packer HashiCorp. Okay, this is a program used to automate the creation of virtual machines on different hypervisor platforms like VirtualBox and VMware Workstation Pro and vSphere. So Packer HashiCorp, it is an executable file used to automate creation of virtual machines. So we use Packer HashiCorp with VirtualBox 7 to create our second virtual machine, which will be our additional domain controller, the second domain controller or our additional domain controller. The Packer HashiCorp uses a JSON file to see the parameters of the virtual machine that will be automated, for example, its RAM, its processor, and so on. So the Packer HashiCorp will read from a JSON file the parameters of the virtual machine and begin creating of it. So we here we can see that we use of VirtualBox 7 and Packer HashiCorp executable file with JSON file to automate the creation of additional domain controller virtual machine with auto unattended installation of Windows Server 2012 R2. So Packer HashiCorp will not only automate the creation of the virtual machine, but automate the installation of the Windows Server 2012 R2 using an unattended XML file. And we will automate installation of Windows updates and VirtualBox guest additions using different scripts, okay, or additional scripts. And then after finishing the creation of the virtual machine and installation or the auto unattended installation of Windows Server 2012 R2, we will use a script after logging into the Windows, we will automate the IP set and name and RDP and DNS and promote the server to be an additional domain controller. All of this will be done using one script. So after finishing installation of Windows, we'll use a script to automate the setting of the IP address for the server, the name of the server, enable remote desktop protocol to enable remote access on the server, and make some DNS scavenging setting for the records or DNS records to be deleted after 8 days. And then this script also will promote the server to be an additional domain controller. So all of this will be in one script. And another script to automate network cards teaming. We have two network cards on the server, and we will use a script to team these two network cards. And at the end, we have another script to automate PowerShell upgrade from version 3 to version 5. And at last, another script to automate installation of PowerShell 7. So we have automation of PowerShell 7, automation of PowerShell upgrade, automation of network cards teaming, automate of server IP set and name and RDP and DNS, and promotion of the server to be an additional domain controller. So all of this we have done in the previous video. Today, we need to automate the deployment of the DHCP server, because this virtual machine will not only be an additional domain controller, but it will be a DHCP as well server, and it will be a file server, and it will be a WSOS server. As we have stated before in the diagram, if you go there and see the diagram, if we can make it a little bit further here. So here we can see that this server will be a WSOS file server DHCP, and this is the IP address of the server. So today we will use a script to automate the deployment of DHCP installation and configuration. So let's see the script here. It is very simple script. First of all, we need to install the feature or the role, DHCP server role. Okay, it will install the DHCP. This is the first line of command to install DHCP Windows feature or server role, okay, and include management tools or include the console for the DHCP. And then the second line is to create the DHCP Active Directory security groups. This is very important because the members in this group will be able to manage and change the configuration of DHCP. This is the second line. And the third line to restart the DHCP server service. So for all of the configuration done before to be taking effect. Okay, so these are the first three lines. Install the DHCP role server. These are the three lines, and then we need to authorize the DHCP server in Active Directory. So this line will tell the Active Directory that this server, which is named its full domain name, which is sknhqdc0212.skynet.internal, this server and its IP address, it will be a DHCP server, and it will be responsible for leasing or distributing IP addresses for the whole domain. He is the only one authorized to do this. Okay, this is a very, very important line to include. Okay, and this registry key or this pass, it will change the state of the DHCP server value to 2. So this is a configuration state of DHCP. It has a value of 2. What we mean by configuration value, change it to 2, that means that this server is now ready to release IP addresses to the clients. So we mean by this registry key that our DHCP server is up and running and ready to release or to lease or to give IP addresses to different workstations. Okay, this is this line. The fourth line, create DHCP scope. So we need to tell the DHCP server what are the scope or what are the range of IP addresses that we will distribute from. So for example, we will begin from 192.168.1.20. This is the beginning of the lease or the beginning of the IP addresses, and the end will be 220. So we have about 100 IP addresses to be distributed. Their name will be Skynet range, and this is the subnet mask, and this is the lease duration. Every IP address will take 8 hours, or it will the workstation will have this IP address for 8 hours, and then it should recommunicate with the DHCP server to give it a different IP address or to give it the same IP address for another 8 hours. Okay, and the state active. So that means that this is the scope and it is active, so you can work from it. Okay, this is the line, and what does it mean? Okay, and another line is to configure different options for the DHCP server. For example, the DHCP server will not only distribute IP addresses, it will distribute the DNS servers, okay, and the gateway. So we need to tell, or this line is specific, it will tell the DHCP to give the clients IP addresses and give them the DNS servers of the domain 1.6 and 1.7. Okay, this is the one. And this the last couple of lines, one of them is to give them the default gateway. So the DHCP will give the client IP address, DNS servers, gateway. Okay, this is the third line. The last two lines, okay, this will be discussed earlier, but here I'm telling him to include the file server role feature, because we will have this server also acting as a file server. So I'm telling him to install file server role, including the console to manage it. So install file server role and include management tools, and install the file server resource manager. So this is also a tool used to manage the file server. So these two lines will install the file server role and the consoles used to manage the file server, and at the end we'll make a restart. Okay, so this is simply what we will do today. We will use this script, or we will implement this script. What I have done, I have taken this script and go to Google Brad AI and tell him to explain this script and tell me if there is any enhancement we can do for this script. So let's see what Google Brad have to say about this script, and to see how he have discussed or how he have explained this script. This script you provided installed the DHCP server role on a computer, authorized it in the Active Directory, creates a new DHCP scope, and configures a DNS and the default gateway for the scope. This is exactly what we have done. It also installed the file server and file server resource manager roles. Okay, this is the last two lines. Okay, here is a more detailed explanation of each step or each line in the script. The first line, install the DHCP server role. This command installs DHCP server role on the computer. The include management tools parameter installs the management tools for DHCP server role. Exactly. If we see here, we can see that this include management tools. He's talking about this first line. Okay. And if we go to the second, authorize DHCP in the Active Directory. Actually, he have passed a couple of things. Authorize DHCP in the Active Directory. This command authorizes the DHCP server in the Active Directory. The DNS name parameter specifies the domain controller that hosts the Active Directory domain, and the IP address parameter specifies the IP address of the DHCP server. If we go there, we will see that this line. So he didn't discuss these two lines, but I will show you another explanation of Google Brad discussing these two lines. Anyway, so he's going to authorize this DHCP server. He's saying that .dns name, this is pointing to not the domain. Actually, this is not correct. Actually, what he's telling here, he's telling that this command authorizes the DHCP server in Active Directory. The minus DNS name parameter specifies the domain controller that hosts the Active Directory domain. This is not correct. DNS names here, this is the DNS name of the DHCP server. So this is a mistake from Google Brad. We don't take everything Google Brad says as something we will not argue, or we will not correct. Just wait a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here, this line says that this is correct. It authorizes DHCP in Active Directory, but minus DNS name, this is the name of not the domain controller, the name of the DHCP server. And IP address, it is the IP address of the DHCP server. This is correct. Okay. Let's see what we will say after that. Set the DHCP server configuration state. This is the third line here. This is this line. Okay. State value to 2. Let's see what he's talking about here. He's saying that set the DHCP server configuration state. This command states the DHCP server configuration state is set to 2. This indicates that the DHCP server is authorized and ready to start serving DHCP request. This is very, very good. And then create a new DHCP scope. This command creates a new DHCP scope. He's talking about this scope, or this is the line. Okay. He's saying here that create new DHCP scope. The name parameter specifies the name of the scope. This is correct. Skynet range. The start range parameter specifies the starting IP address of the scope. The end range parameter specifies the ending IP address of the scope. If we can see here, this is the minus start parameter, minus end parameter. Okay. And if we continue here, the minus subnet parameter specifies the subnet mask for the scope. This is correct. And the least duration parameter specified the least duration for the scope, and the state parameter specified the state of the scope. Okay, so maybe he's not explaining much, but it's good if you tell him to elaborate more or to give more details, he will discuss more. Okay, so let's continue and see what he's talking about. So this is the line. If we go to the fifth line, configure a DNS server for the scope. This command configures the DNS server for the scope. The DNS domain parameter specifies the DNS domain. The DNS server specifies the IP address of the DNS server, and the scope ID parameter specifies the ID of the scope. Configure DNS for the scope. So he's telling the DHCP to use these DNS servers for its client. Okay, this is good. And this what this line do. Okay, this line, this is the DNS line, and then another line here to specify the router. If you go there again, here he will configure a default gateway. This command configures the default gateway. The router parameter specifies the IP address of the default gateway. Then the last two lines, install the file server role. This is what I'm talking about, these two lines. Okay, install the file server role. This command install the file server role on the computer. The include management tools parameter installs the management tools for the server role. If we go further, so 8th line, the file server resource manager role. This command install the file server resource manager role on the computer. The minus include parameters install the management tools for the file server role. The restart parameter restarts the computer after the role has been installed. So this is the explanation, and then he's saying you have to have some enhancement. Or what is the enhancement? The script could be made more modular by breaking it into smaller functions. This would make the script easier to read and maintain. The script would have more configurable, made more configurable by allowing the user to specify the values of the various parameters. This, I will show you what is the enhancement done by Google Brad or Google Bard AI. This would make the script more usable. The script could be made more robust by adding error handling. This is one of the things, to add some lines to make messages for the user if the script is not working properly. This would help to prevent the script from failing if any of the steps fail, and also if one step fail, you will not go to the other step. This is a good thing also to be done. Overall, the script is a good starting point for installing and configuring a DHCP server. However, it could be improved by making it more modular, configurable, and robust. So this is one of the explanations. Another explanation, which is more simpler, he's saying here, let's go. I can explain it. The script installed the DHCP server on the computer, then it authorized the DHCP server in Active Directory. Okay, and then it creates a new scope with the following setting. This is the name of the scope, the starting range of the scope, the ending range of the scope, the subnet mask, the least duration, the status. Okay, this script then configures the DNS server for the scope and the default gateway for the scope. Finally, it installed the server role, resource manager, and file server and file server resource manager on the computer. Uh, the same enhancement advices, but here he add something at the end. Here are some additional details about the commands that are used in the script. Install dash Windows features installs a Windows feature. Net shdhcp add security groups. This is the whole command. Add security groups to the DHCP server. Restart service restores the Windows service. Add DHCP service in DC authorized a DHCP server in Active Directory. Set minus item property sets a value in the registry. Add DHCP server v4 scope creates a new DHCP scope IP version 4 scope. This is one thing. Set DHCP server 4 option value configures an option for the DHCP scope. This is ordered for IP version 4. So this is another explanation, and at the end here is the enhancement that he's or what Google Bard asked or told us, or he modified the script. So he's just doing uh, some variables. So for example, instead of typing the command with the IP address of the server and the name of the server, no, he's putting them in variables. Okay, $sign DNS name, $sign DNS server, $sign DNS2, $sign default gateway. All of this will be variables used instead of using the real data. Okay, so this is one of the explanations. I urge you all to use the AI tools, but to revise the output of these AI tools, because sometimes it is not completely correct. We have seen there is one error or one mistake in Google Bard output, which is set DNS. Okay, this is one of the problems. Anyway, so we will go and begin see the practical part of this lab. Let's see how the DHCP will be configured and automated. So now we will open the primary domain controller, and then we will open the additional domain controller, and then we will use the script to automate the installation and configuration of the DHCP. So this is number 2, and as a best practice, of course, is to have the DHCP on a separate server, and the file server on a separate server, and WSOS on a separate server. But if you have only one server, then you can put all of them on one server in addition to the additional domain controller. But one of the things, the primary domain controller should be on only one server without any other features working with the Active Directory. Okay, so now we are logging into the additional domain controller, and then we will use the script to automate the deployment of DHCP. So we'll go now and open our D folder and then go to the scripts, and then we will have something called deploy DHCP. This is the script. We will edit it. Okay. So simply, if you need to explain a script, you go to Google Bard, paste the script, copy and paste the script, and tell him to explain this script in simple terms and provide enhancements. Okay. So this is very simple thing. Here I need to just this line not to be there. I will just make it all in one line, or make it all under each other. And by the way, I am restarting the server after installing the file server resource manager role, because there is a problem. I will show you all when we will begin working with the file server feature, but take note that I am making restart for a certain reason. Okay. So anyway, now we are working with the script. So to begin collecting data, okay, about the machine or the server, and then it will begin implementing the script line by line. Okay. So here in this video I will only discuss the DHCP automation, and the upcoming video I will begin working, or will telling you how we can deploy or automate deployment of file server with all of the shares, deployment of the shares and the permissions and the Active Directory home folders and the department shares. We will set SMB share permissions and NTFS share permissions. All of this will be done or automated using one script. Okay, so now it's beginning installation. So it will take a little bit of time. Here, as we said before, the main focus of this series, the Terminator Lab, is to automate different tasks to save time, and to also you can take this scripts as a disaster recovery plan to make everything up and running. Okay, so if you need to build everything from scratch, this scripts will help you to automate everything in very or a least amount of time. So it will take some time. It's still installing the DHCP. This can be done actually using a graphical interface, but it will take some time. Here we can see that the server role feature, or the DHCP server role feature, is installed, and then it will restart. This is the line. It will restart the service of the DHCP, and then it should go to this line to authorize this server to be to lease and issue IP addresses to the domain of Skynet.internal. Okay, so we will take some time. So now it is restarting, because I have told him to restart the server. Actually, he have done all of the script, because uh, here I'm not telling him to pause the script. So he have done all of the script. Now we have installed the HTTP server, created the scope, everything. So now the whole script is done, not only the first two lines. Okay, all of the script is done. We will see after the installation, we will go and see everything is done. If we open uh, the our console and open the DHCP, we'll see everything is working. Okay, so we open care of and open the DHCP console, we will see that the scope, the DHCP was created, security groups for the DHCP was created, it is authorized in the Active Directory, the scope was created, the DNS setting for the scope was created, the gateway was created for the DHCP, and the file server features was installed, or file server role was installed. If we open our server manager and see our DHCP console, we will see the changes, or we'll see what will happen. This script was applied in maybe less than a minute. Okay, so if you go and open the server manager and then we will open the DHCP console, we will see everything is configured. We need here to enable two features in the DHCP, something called allow filter and deny filter. These are two features. We will see that in a moment. I will show you all what I mean by allow filter and deny filter. So we can see here, okay, this is our DHCP. It is created. Okay, if we open IP version 4, we will see that here is the scope, Skynet range scope was created, the DHCP pool was created 2020, and this is the scope. We can see that DNS, IP addresses, the domain, and the router. And then here we need to enable these two features. What these two features do, allow filter and deny filter, we can use these two features to allow or deny certain workstations to take IP addresses from the DHCP based on the network card MAC address of the machine. So if a machine needs to take an IP address from the DHCP server, it can be allowed for doing this by making the DHCP review its network card MAC address. Or if you need to block or not, or to deny a certain machine to take an IP address from the DHCP server, then it will also do this using the MAC address of the network card of the machine. Okay, so these are two important things to enable in an environment, okay, or in a corporate environment, because here you can control what machines will access your resources in the domain, because the first step for accessing any resources in a domain is to take an IP address within the domain or from the domain IP address range. Okay, so now I'm just enabling both of them. So as a best practice, you need to take all of the MAC addresses of all of your workstations that will take IP address from the DHCP server and put them in the allow section. Okay, if any other machine try to take IP address other than your workstations which are in the allow filter, it will be blocked, and it will ask you, or you need to go there and add it to the allow filter to authorize it to take an IP address from the DHCP server. This is very good to control adding of resources to your network. Okay, so this is one thing. So you can see there is a little bit of a problem here. Every time I enable and disable, or I enable it, it is disabled. Now we have both of them are working. So this is, I think in the end, anyway, it is authorized. We can see here it is unauthorized, so we can see it is authorized. So we can see from here that everything is working properly. The upcoming video, I will begin discussing, or the second script, which is related to the file server. Let me first see a little bit here something. If we go to the administrative tools, we will see that the file server and file server resource manager are added. Okay, we can see them there, but here I am going to the PowerShell. Okay, to do something here, I need to make sure that the file server PowerShell commands are added. So when I am adding the file server role feature and adding the file server resource manager role feature, it should add the commands related to them in PowerShell. So here this is a command related to the file server. If I'm trying, here you can see these are available, but if you press enter, we will see that this command will not get any feedback. So this is a problem we need to resolve. Okay, here the file server role is added, but the PowerShell commands related to the file server is not added. And this is a problem because we will have a PowerShell script that will use file server PowerShell commandlets to execute certain thing or make certain actions to the file server. So this will be simply fixed by restarting the server another time. Okay, so this is why I'm testing this commands. Okay, so we need to restart the server again so the commandlets of the file server to take or to be working or to be activated. Okay, so I will just stop this video at the second script. I will show you the second script that we will use to install or to automate the whole thing related to the file server, the file shares, the Active Directory home folders, and a lot of things. So if we restarted the server, take a good note. One of the commands of the file server is not working on PowerShell. If I make a restart and try to, after the restart, use the same command, it will get some data. So this is one thing you need to take care. If you are working with PowerShell scripts to automate your file server, you need to restart your server twice. Okay, this is, I think, related to only file server 2012 R2. This problem I didn't face with Windows Server 2022. Okay, so this is one thing to take note because I have faced this when I was working with scripts, okay, related to the file server. So we will go now and restart the server, and then we will go to the PowerShell and test the file server commandlets and see if they are working or not. So it will take a little bit of time. Okay, so it will take a little bit of time, but actually if you go to the PowerShell and see the file server commandlets, it will be working. So it's now applying the different group policies. Okay, now we need to tell him input and insert Control Alt Delete. Okay, we log in with the domain admin account. Okay, Raouf, and login. And then let's try and see if the same command or the file server PowerShell commands are working or not. Now I'm copying the script for automating the file server and all of its related activities like shares and their permissions. This is a console. If you open the console, I will add in this console two things. I will add the DHCP console and we add the file server console just to make it ready after installation of the file server, or after configuring the file server. We add the snap-in, so we will add DHCP. We have added this before. This is the Active Directory, users and computers, DNS, group policy, management console, event viewer. We add DHCP and we will add file server resource manager. So we'll be ready to configure everything when we need. Okay, and this is a custom console. Okay, now we can see this is our different settings in the DHCP. Now we can see that our file server, we don't have any quota, we don't have any file screening. Take note because all of this will be created and deployed using a script. Okay, so this is one thing we need to, I will take a snapshot. I'll take it before, I'll tell it, name it before shares. Okay, this is one thing. We will take a snapshot on the additional domain controller and a snapshot on the primary domain controller. just to make sure, or to, if there is any problem, we can revert back to the state where everything is stable. Okay, so now I'll take a snapshot before shares. I will stop the video, but just when we reach the point when when I will open the script for the file server, or automating or deploying the file server. So now I think I will open the script. So now I will go, and first of all we need to make sure again that the commandlet or the commands of the file server is working from PowerShell. So here I am going and trying to see the same command that I have used before the restart, get fsrm groups. Before that, when I press enter, it doesn't give me any output, and that means that the command is not working. If I am now trying to issue the same command and press enter, it will get me some data. So that means that the commandlets are working. Here we can see these are the different file groups that are blocked by the file server. If you need him to block certain file groups or file extensions, these are done in groups in the file server resource manager. Okay, so now this is the second script, and also this script will not only uh, share folders, it will create the folders. So this is a large script. It will create folders, share them SMB permissions and NTFS permissions. It will create Active Directory home folders. A lot of things it will be done. I've discussed them later in upcoming video. I will just stop at this minute. It is minute 16. So here we will stop at minute 16, and the upcoming video will discuss how we, or every line of in this script, every line in this script, we'll discuss it later in the upcoming video. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much. So we have minute 16, and we will stop this one. Okay, and thank you so much.